Yeah, I think the other thing is the impact of the market itself. The ultra community relative to a lot of the other, like generally the Asian communities, even the communities, are probably a lot smaller. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but FAA's probably a lot more worried about what's going on in the U.S. just because of how easy it is to access a lot of the systems. So.
Talk a lot about operating plane and line of sight. What about autonomous who's there?
It's still the same. So if it's RC or autonomous, it doesn't matter as long as it's still line of sight.
You don't have an operator at all.
But they still intend for someone to be holding the controls and being able to take over manual control.
If there's no control, is it legal?
What?
If there's no operator override, is it legal?
I don't know about the specifics of that, but I mean I'm pretty sure that how the FAA always intends is there's always a pilot on the ground with command over the vehicle. If you switch it into autonomous mode and you switch it out, they still consider that the same thing. To be honest, though, I don't think they really look into it. I don't think they really look into a lot of different levels of autonomy. They still do things a lot like a manned aircraft, and they're kind of evolving towards learning about the new technology and how autonomous some of these systems can be with zero input whatsoever. But as far as how they look at modelers versus autonomy versus not autonomy, I don't think there's been a lot in that area, but they still do see a vehicle as with a dedicated person on the ground holding something that controls that vehicle.
Have it with someone's number.
Yeah. Someone's responsible.
responsible.
That thing flies into someone's house. They're going to sue someone.
It's the air responsibility is what matters, not necessarily the control.
Yeah.
Are they addressing anything in particular if you have a swarm of smaller aircraft or something like that? So if you put up 100 of them or 200 or something, that's going to fill up the airspace.
Yeah, that's not even close. I would say they're not even looking at that. I'm sure maybe it's in the minds of someone, but as far as how you regulate that, I think it's pretty difficult. So I'm sure they're going to have to tackle that at some point, but I haven't seen anything about it right now. One aircraft, one operator, that's a UAS. The system, which is the aircraft and the operator, that's it.
Someone asked about beacons earlier. Did you see ADS-B out as moving down to smaller aircraft, or maybe allowing smaller aircraft to operate closer to airports, or does that seem like a long way away for
No, there's already companies. There's a company, SageTech, that's creating very small ADS-B. It's still not extremely small, so like if you have a very small multi-rotor, it's still probably a little big. But like with any new technology, it's going to get smaller, it's going to get cheaper. And that's actually something the FAA is very interested in. And they're actually looking to fund some of those efforts to create better, cheaper, lighter ADS-B so we can get it on more systems.
Do you have anything about like safe corridors where sort of commercial operations could happen within a specific range of the airspace?
Yeah, so like sectioning off manned aircraft from the unmanned. Yeah, so there's some interesting work actually going on with NASA right now. They're developing a concept called UTM, unmanned traffic management, where they're trying to create some of these corridors where, for example, a lot of these small unmanned aircraft really don't care. They have no reason to be in the real national airspace talking air traffic controllers, doing all that. So NASA wants to kind of look at how do we create these separate corridors to allow low altitude UAS operations completely separate from the nest. And we need radar systems, what type of equipment do the aircraft need. So yeah, they are looking into that.
Do they have any sort of timeline laid out as far as expectations? Or
It's still pretty far out there. They're just beginning their research on the project. But
thanks.
Just point of for self-promotion, we've got a 10,000 square foot warehouse that we'll fly drones in, so if you're interested, come find me. But the other question was, how much regulatory action has happened here in the Bay Area, to your knowledge, in the last year or two? I mean, is this something where we have hundreds of people at FAA with binoculars looking into enforcing stuff, or is there one guy somewhere in Pinole?
it's pretty sparse. If you think of like what I've heard directly from them is that they're small. The U.S. program office is a small organization. They don't have the bandwidth to go after everyone that's doing it. There's tons of companies in the U.S. that are operating fully commercially right now, just doing tons of work around it. The FAA really doesn't have the bandwidth to go after it. Who they do go after are the people that make a big thing about it. Like they'll take a video and they'll post it to YouTube and it gets hundreds of thousands of hits. And now it's kind of in their face and we have to do something about it. And those are who they're really targeting. They're not really going after people that are just doing their own thing safely. They're just kind of like, look, just I don't want to speak for them, but they're going after the people that are making a big deal out of it.
So more on the consumer side of things, as Panther come up with Olympic and other operators, other products come out, and sort of by the time the FAA is done making the rules or really enacting things, there's almost a cat out of the bag thing where there's going to be so many of them, and enforceability becomes almost a chaos. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you think the FAA will react?
Well, I mean, I don't think it'll be, I mean, if they release rules and people just start blatantly violating them, and that's something I think a little bit different, but assuming they create rules that make sense for the majority of the operators, I think people are going to comply. People want to operate safely, they want the industry to thrive. So I think what you mentioned, I think that case would really only happen if the rules are way too strict, and a lot of people just said, forget it, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and that would be a big problem, I think.
So along those lines, what do you think the rules will be? What do you think the rules will shake out for consumer vehicles?
Well, just
one open question.
If you mean consumer vehicle wouldn't send up like a hobbyist like you?
Yeah, like hobbies. Me and you, who today is a model aircraft that happens to be semi-autonomous, has tons of features that could fly within those rules.
If it's a model aircraft, you're not using it for commercial purposes, and it's under 55 pounds, it follows those things that I mentioned before, you'd be a model aircraft, and you follow the model aircraft guidelines. So whatever comes out of that special rule for model aircraft, you would be governed by that.
What does this term commercial mean? If you were selling something, say, to a farmer, is that a commercial, or is it commercial as in you were selling a service?
Anything. So that's one of the interesting points I think here is that there's been a lot of debate on what's commercial and what's not. They've said anything that's even incidental to a business, they rule as commercial, and it's outside of the scope of model aircraft. So even if some companies, for example, they're like, well, I'm not going to sell them the UAV, I'm just going to sell them a picture. They're saying that's an incidental use of the UAV, and that's still governed by the rules. Anytime a business or there's any sort of financial transaction, they're considering that commercial.
You sell a drone, you sell a plane to a farmer, say, they use it themselves, it's still commercial.
It's different. Because the farmer does it himself, it's different. And that rule becomes actually, he is the AMN.
The farmer is using it commercially, you are not by selling it. Right? You are not by selling it, that's okay, the farmer is using it commercially.
It's still used, it's still
It specifically says, observing your own crops is okay, right?
Yes.
Quality, verification, specific on all that.
Yeah. So if the farmer is, let's say it's not an
So if you
individual.
get any revenue from your Google, it's on your FTP video, Google commercial. Like, I mean, this is getting to the point where if they continue with that role, it will be exactly like the point where everyone will be forced to break it. So it's really, it behooves them to not make rules so strict.
Exactly.
That they do that. But that looks like where they're headed.
Yeah, unless there's a lot of comments, for example, against this model community thing, and they have to pull certain things out of it, or the small UAS rule at deliberation, and through the comment period on that, they have to strike a lot of things out of it, or people propose that you have much lower cases of very simple guidelines for things like simple photography, those types of things. So just like you're doing the comment period for this, there's going to be another one for that small UAS rule. There's going to be a lot of comments for that. That's why they're expecting it to take so long, because they're expecting to just get slammed in comments. And a lot of comments would be carve out something for 2 kilograms, carve out something for 5 kilograms, carve out something for 15 to 25, not 0 to 55.
So the regional regulations are going on to everybody. Besides, I guess, delaying the regulation, what avenue would you pursue to actually make sure there are changes? Do they have to make changes for every comment, or can they just present a counter?
Yeah, so they can
digital that, there are no